So now we're moving on to the first tool in our arsenal. After we've taken our commitments, given some context, gone into the right frame of mind to approach this, we're going to get into the most approachable tool, one of the best tools that we've got as people are caught up in depression, often caught up in our heads, to start unwinding these thought patterns. The reason why it's approachable, it's coming at it from an intellectual point of view, a conscious point of view, even a mental point of view. And we're really good, we're experts at being caught up in our heads with this depressive thinking. What we're going to do now is turn that thinking back in on itself to start going the other way and unwinding this depressive thinking, these depressive thoughts. We're going to use our willpower to deploy our own thought program against the depressive thought programs and start pulling us out of depression. And this tool is called Thought Pattern Dissolve. This is a tool that I have put together based on my own practice and learnings and how I've been working in my own process to come out of depression as an ongoing process. I have drawn these tools often from other sources, other books I've read or teachers I've been to or spoken with. But I have taken different angles and different phrasing, different ways I've looked at it, different nuances in it, ordering, taken one here from there, arranged it, and what I've found is the most effective tool for me personally to get rid of depression. And I think it's going to work for a lot of people too, because it addresses exactly how the depression often manifests and how the loops manifest and how our attention gets drawn into it. So I'm really excited to share this with you. Try it, go through these steps, deploy this program. Let me know for you how it's working. But you can rest assured that these are based on a lot of research independently into some of these components, and that I have found that in concert, they work even more powerfully and bring lasting change. And specifically, I found that using this technique, I've been able to eliminate whole categories of depressive thinking at a time. And that's why it's been so effective. Instead of just getting rid of, one thought here and there, I'm able to get rid of an entire category of thought. Could be a category as big as relationship thinking. Could be a category as big as food obsession. Could be a category as big as masturbation, some sexual proclivity. We're getting rid of an entire category of thought. So you could just imagine how much space that frees up within you if an entire category of thinking is completely gone. And after one category is gone, the other categories are there, but you can begin to imagine how over time, as more and more of those categories get cleared out, how simplified your mind is and how simplified the remaining issues you're dealing with and the remaining types of feeling you're dealing with are. In the beginning, and I recommend you do the same thing, is take stock. Get out a notebook with a physical pen and a physical notebook and start listing out the categories of thinking that you have. And you might be able to come up with a whole bunch of those right now. Just think about, earlier today, yesterday, last week, what are some of the things you've been thinking about, and then start grouping them into categories. Generally, what are they about? Are they about my romantic partner? Are they about my work? Is it a a negative obsession? Do I keep thinking about things that have gone wrong? That's something I had. Or I would always think about like what I could do better, because I grew up with autism, and I kept doing things wrong, and I would always have to retrain myself. I was never doing things right. How can I do it better? So I ingrained that pattern into myself. My mind would constantly think, all right, go back to that last situation. Now, Jonah, you didn't do it right. What could you do better? And I would keep having that thought pattern. So it's a thought pattern. If you didn't have autism, you very well may not have that thought pattern. That's one that I had. But think about the thought patterns that you have. Do you have a certain type of worry that just keeps coming back as a pattern? List that down on a physical piece of paper. Start coming up with a list. Now, you can take that physical piece of paper, and what I did is later on, I put that on the computer and kept a tally there that I could keep coming back to in my Google Drive folder. And you can do that too, but as the next 4 days progress, stay with this exercise and think, is this a new category? Have I discovered a new category? Is what I'm thinking now a new category? We want to make a nice comprehensive list, as comprehensive as we can, of all the different categories that are there. And the first time I did this, I came up with 11. And I eventually got into a number around 22, low 20s. But I exhausted the categories that there were. There's only a finite number of categories that we think about, because our mind is not that smart. It's not that expansive. It's actually relatively small. It tricks us into thinking, it's so intelligent, how large it is, and we're like in a maze. We can't get out of it because it keeps reflecting off of all the situations and going back and forth. But when we step back and do a little grouping, just a little simple grouping, a little simple categorization, we realize that it only has so many tricks up its sleeve. It's really helpful to know the categories that are there. Please do this. Please revisit this over the next 4 days with a pencil and paper. And get down for yourself. You owe it to yourself. You owe it to yourself to know what your mind is thinking about, and have that consciously bulleted down. Have those categories there. Count them. Know how many categories there are there. And maybe you'll even have an inkling what those dominant categories are. What the ones, do you have a category, 40% of your time you're anxious about a particular issue? Is it more spread out? Is it more dispersed? Are there some categories you're only in 2% or 1% of the time when a particular trigger comes in? Really think about it. And go back. Think last month, last year at this time, what were you concerned about? And you might realize, as I've realized, going back in time and thinking about what I was worried about years ago. And I'm 37 now. And just the other day, I was thinking about what I was doing in high school, the year before graduation, and some of the thoughts that I had going on then. And I realized that some of those same types of thoughts, those same types of categories, were the same then as they are now. So it's really important that we understand what these categories are. And this is also going to give us an inventory. We're going to feel more scientific about this process as we're able to dissolve these categories, eliminate them. In the process, we're going to make some of them weaker, so they're just going to start popping up a little bit, and then they're going to come out of our mind much quicker as we're moving through this process and progressing. And you're going to be able to make some crosses off of that list, either on that physical piece of paper, or if you've translated it into online, you're going to be able to make some strike-throughs on your Google Drive spreadsheet, if that's where you put it, as you eliminate some of these categories. And it's going to feel great when an entire category of thought is weakened, when an entire category of thought just appears above the surface, and then those type of thoughts just fade away real quick, and it's going to feel great when they're no longer there anymore. So we're going to start the thought pattern dissolve methodology, and you're going to know where you stand right now in the next 4 days. You're going to know what you're dealing with, what your categories are. I know what mine are. I know what's not there anymore. I know what's still remaining. And now I'm dealing with a much smaller subset. I can fixate on a much smaller amount because those number of categories and thought types that the depression was previously controlling, and it doesn't have access to those thoughts anymore. I've taken the power back. I've taken my attention back. I've realized that I don't need to be in those categories. My mind knows it. My subconscious knows it. And the depression has relinquished its hold over those categories of thought. Know your categories. Write them down. Send me an email with your list of categories. Send it to your mom, send it to your dad, send it to your friends. Post it on your Facebook page. These are my categories of thought that I'm dealing with. Talk about your significant other to them. Tell them that you're fighting depression. Just be open with it. Everybody can feel this anyway. There's no point in holding it back. But let people know, let them know what it's in your head, even if it's so dark you feel like people would turn away from you. Everybody is dealing with this type of thing. Some people it's different than others, and some people have different categories than others. But in general, as a humanity, we're dealing with all these issues. Tell people, these are my categories of thought. Tell your significant other, if you have a significant other, these are my categories. Bring out your sheet of paper. This is what I'm getting stuck on. This is what I'm in my head on. And just sharing that is going to help. Every time we open ourselves up to somebody else, every time we tell other people what's going on inside of us, something it diminishes from that. It gets a bit lighter. So the more you're open with yourself and shed the light, you're shining a flashlight on those categories, seeing them for what they are. So you're seeing it for yourself. Let other people also see those categories. And in doing so, you're shedding that light, and some of the darkness begins to leave, some of the heaviness begins to leave, some of the sting begins to leave. And that's going to help you on your journey in that indirect way. And it's also going to help directly because your partner, your friends, your family, the people who are going around, they're going to know what you're dealing with. They're going to know that, you're caught up ahead about that issue you've been anxious with, and they're going to have some more understanding instead of perhaps getting angry at you. They're going to have some more feeling of what you're going through, and maybe even be able to help and work around some of these issues and support. They're going to know where you're coming from, even if they don't do anything. Just by knowing where you're coming from, shedding that light and having some of that resonance, this will also bring you closer to people. When you're sharing of yourself, they're seeing more of the real you, the authentic you, and they're appreciating your struggle, and they know what you're dealing with inside. That's going to bring you closer. This is going to make you stronger. It's going to offer more of the support you need, more of the heart-to-heart connection that helps in this process. Know your categories. Be honest with yourself. See the categories for yourself. Share them with others. Be open about it. There's no secrets that are worth keeping, and there's everything worth giving up because they're not yours. Don't see this depression as yours. See it as something that you've taken on, but it's not really part of you. And if you have a thought category about something that's embarrassing, maybe as something as embarrassing as masturbation, like I had, that's not actually part of you. Even if it's embarrassing and feels like it's something you're doing, it's not who you are. It's something you've taken on. It's not part of the real you, the core you. And the more we don't hang on to it, the more we recognize what's there, the more we acknowledge it, but the more we understand that it's not really who we are, and we can take steps against it. No matter how many times we have to fall back, we keep taking steps against it. The more we can be free and get to a place where that leaves us, even the most addictive activities can leave because they're not actually part of us, and we can get free of them and we can be who we are. So shed light on your categories, know your categories, share your categories. Let's continue now getting into the thought pattern dissolve. method.